There we go. Larry Reed, the man on weed. And here we are on the grinder, July 17th, 2019 edition. And we are talking about changing things, which is what's happening here in Oklahoma.
So what we need is change in Oklahoma.
That's it. And tonight our guests are Darla Masad and Casey Gordon, which Casey was a guest earlier. If you go back through the archives, thanks for everybody tuning in. I think it might have been during the Chronic Palooza, actually. Right?
I think so.
I think it was.
The Chronic Palooza.
Thank you guys for having me back, too.
Yeah,
It's
for
great.
sure.
It's great. We appreciate you.
We always like to see success stories, and then also one of the main things that's important for me with everybody that's been following my journey, because everyone knows about my hashtag Free Wally, for my husband who's currently incarcerated doing time for a weed charge. But we wanted to bring Casey's mom in as well so that you guys could hear from a mother's perspective. I've had a lot of we actually had some pretty negative things happen even just recently regarding me. Someone thought it was cute to get my criminal background, put it all over the internet, and try to destroy me because I'm doing positive things in our community. And actually a lot of men have been attacking me verbally through Facebook and things like that. So I had to do an entire rebuttal and explain myself to the community because people thought that that was necessary. And I did. But I think it's important for people to know that, I mean, we're the #1 state for incarceration, you know, and we were doing the math, and some things I read, it was like in a room, every 4 out of 5 people you meet have a felony, whether they're new or old, or people are, or if they don't have a felony, a family member does. And so there's a lot of people who definitely can relate to our stories that we're talking about tonight, and the ones that I've been talking about as well. I think I got you good there. You should be in your page.
Okay.
So I just wanted to take time to you know, it's an anomaly. Sometimes people feel if you have a felony that you can be successful, that you can make change, that you can do positive things, but it does happen. It happens every day, thank God, because if not, our state would be full of people with nobody that can be successful. And there's a lot of really great people who come out of prison and do get back on the right path and are able to be successful. But like one of the things Darla and I were talking about a moment ago while we were waiting to go live was the disappointment of the ability for people to really get ahead when they come out, because you know, you were talking about that a moment ago, just as far as the roadblocks and obstacles.
There's very, very many, and people don't understand how many there really are. With Casey, you know, when he got out, we had to, of course, get his license, and you know, it makes my heart hurt for all the people who can't afford to do those things because it's so costly. And then they wonder why Oklahoma's recidivism rate is so high, because it's high because, you know, people don't have a choice. They have to go back in. It was $1,500 to get a driver's license. And,
$1,500 just because.
Just because.
I was $1,500 because my license was suspended for the drug charge, and then because of the time, the duration it had been suspended for, and the time period that elapsed over a certain period, the fees go up and this and that. And then in order to pay the $1,500, you have to pay $250 more to get the class, to get the certificate, to get the other class, to
and
pay
then because
another
it was drugs, it was
$150.
even more.
Yeah, and because
Yeah.
so by the time I ended up taking the classes, getting their certificates,
We paid
going through the
almost
motions, it was close to $2,000. I think it was right at $2,000 to get my driver's license.
Yeah. But if
Well,
you
that's
can't
wrong, huh?
drive, you know.
Yeah, but if you can't drive, you know, then you have to go back and take the actual driver's test, which you have to have a vehicle for. The vehicle has to have a tag and registration up to date. It has to be insured. So it's like, man, if you don't have a family who has money
Good support
or
system.
doesn't have a car with insurance, or it's almost next to impossible.
Well, and I mean, and that just shows you how broken the system is. It really is. It's broken, and it's sad because there are so many that don't have resources and don't have good families, and you know, they just end up going right back in because, it makes it so hard. I mean, if they want you to step out of there and have $2,000, or maybe everybody doesn't have to pay $2,000 for a license, but they want you to have money for a license, which you have to have because you need to get a job. But then you can't get a job because you have a felony. So you better know somebody that'll hire you, with a felony, or you better have a family that can put you into business, or something of that nature. And so that makes it so, and people on the outside don't realize, how difficult it is, waiting on them this whole time to get out, and then when they hit the ground, you start a whole different series of battles. You battle while they're in, and you battle while they're out. So, it's a sad state, and it's unnecessary. It really is, because there's really a lot of ways to fix things, and the laws are so that these sentences they give are, they just give draconian sentences that should never be given. Casey, for example, he was on probation for 15 years. Well, then he got he was on probation, and of course, and I asked specifically for our attorney to give him some kind of drug counseling, or whatever. Oh, no, he'll be fine, whatever. Well, kids that are young like that are not going to be fine. We know that kind of a slap on the wrist, they're not going to be fine. He should have been fine, but he wasn't, and I knew that. I knew if he didn't have some mandatory counseling, or a drug court or something to make him accountable, they're going to go back, and then, as soon as he went back, 30 years for marijuana, which is now legal. And, it's a sad thing. And like I said, these sentences, they put him in there. I'd tell him, try to get on and do some college classes. Well, Mom, I can't get in on any of the programs because I have so much time. So,
that one.
you sit and you sit.
The way it works in there, there's so many stipulations and stuff that they're trying to help everybody get in. The closer you get back to getting released into the community, they're trying to put those people to the front of the line on the classes and everything, which makes sense because you're about to be released. So the guys doing, 20 and 30-year sentences, I mean, you may sit for 10 years before you ever do a class, because there's so many people that are coming in on these little short sentences that are coming out. You can't get in, in the rotation, and you don't meet the criteria for that specific thing. So, you may just do 10 years of dead time. You may just sit there, just literally just sit in the cell for 10 years until you can qualify for some of the stuff that's available.
Well, I mean, there's no rehabilitation in the whole thing. It's all punitive. And so,
That's what we were talking about.
it's
Right, they have no reason to, because if they reform everybody, or they let off some of these lighter things that are nonviolent and things like that, they get rid of their own bread.
Exactly.
Their paychecks dry up.
It's about money.
They're already
and
dry
it's-
enough as it is.
Well,
Those people
it's-
don't make any money.
Right, and they're kind of under the gun. Well, not, I don't want to say gun, but they have a twisted being also, because it's a weirdness of, it's the people you work with every day.
For sure.
And you become, especially with nonviolent people and stuff like that, it's almost like the cartoon of the sheepdog and the coyote and all that kind of stuff is like, you're just chasing each other around during the day, and at the end of the day, like, let's have something to eat and sit down and go to sleep and wake up and then just play the same
it again.
game. And
For sure.
it's like, what are we accomplishing here? Where's the energy going? It's just going into, and that's one of the things that we were talking about earlier. Imagine all the energy that's been lost in something that they 30 years for weed, like things like that, and now it's pay $2,500 and you can play in weed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can grow your own and sell it to everybody that you
grow
know.
your own.
Which we're not complaining about.
Yeah, we
That's
don't
the way
wanna
it
go
should have
back.
been from the get-go.
Yeah.
However, I have a problem with that being the case, where they're making millions of dollars every month and my husband's still incarcerated for it.
For sure.
I have a major problem with that.
For sure.
The people of Oklahoma are paying for Wally 3 hot in a cot, and that's where your tax money's going. Do you really want to spend that money for that kind of stuff? Like,
For
it's
sure.
not.
And the fact that the prisons, living inside, they're so full. Like, they're beyond full. Like, they're full to the amount to where they're starting to just cram bunks in places that don't even go there because there's nowhere else to put people. Like, you may get transferred to another facility and you have to sit in solitary confinement or in some type of library room or something and sleep on the floor until they can even find you a bed. It's like, hey, hello, like, have y'all not figured out, let somebody go. Like, you guys are stacking bodies on top of bodies on top of bodies to the point that, you know what I mean? Yeah, people make mistakes. People commit crimes. Prison's there for a reason. But try to decipher for what reason is it there for. To house murderers and rapists and people who probably should be out of the way for a little bit, not people who were smoking a joint on the corner, somebody who had one too many beers to drink. You got to decide, you got to pick your battles.
Well, there needs to be some type of rehabilitation for the drug offenders, and maybe just I've battled this in my mind a lot. I don't know if it's the idea behind it should be a different facility for, drug offenders altogether. I don't know, but I just know, you can't mix all those people. It's like, you learn more from, hard criminals than anything else.
It's a
He
college.
was in there, yeah, really. He was in there with people, and he was like, yeah, my cellmate, murdered 2 people, and I'm going, oh my gosh, don't go to sleep. Your mind goes, and you pray, and you just ask God to watch over them and to keep them safe and to protect them. But it's hard for the people out here. I know it's hard for them, but it's hard for us out here because you worry so much. And basically they're a number. They're a number to everybody except for you. You're the one that cares for your own person that's in there, but there's not a lot of people that care. But I will say we do have a lot of good people in the state, and I know Senator Bass helped me a great deal, and Ken Sudorfel was my attorney, who was phenomenal. And I went through several, like we talked about, and some of them don't care. They take your money and they
Promise
go.
you the world,
Yeah.
and then you get
Man.
nothing out of the deal.
I spent so
Absolutely
much
nothing.
money, and they don't realize, you're just digging anything you can. You're holding
To
on
try
to
to-
any way to get them out, and you're just dumping money because they know what they're telling you isn't the truth, and they take your money, and I spent a lot of money that I probably should have just kept and saved because it would just went down the hole. And and I wonder sometimes how these people sleep at night, just take people's money and say, yeah, I'm going to help you out. I'm going to get your son out. And, and you want to believe anything that they're telling you because you're so desperate to get them out. And, your heart
I
is
said they all took a
hurting.
class. It's called the stall class. They know how to do the stall tactics. I'm getting that all day long.
Yeah, they
Every
don't
day when I
return your
call into my,
calls
oh,
and-
they're in court. Oh, I couldn't get them. They were doing this, or they weren't at their desk, or they're on vacation, or they're not there. And it's just you get it from every single one that you hired. I'm back to the one we hired initially, but I hired 4 more in between, and now I'm back to him because he's the only one that can fix the problem. But on another note, one thing I wanted to have you come back on is from a mother's perspective, and as your journey when you were trying to, your son was given an opportunity to get his commutation and get out. Thank God for that.
Yes.
But tell us just kind of for anyone that's watching, any mothers, sisters, brothers, fathers that are watching, what are some steps, if you could tell people, that they need to do to get more vocal, to try to just help them if they have a similar situation that you were in, because you just lived it and you're living proof that it can happen and people can get out if the pressure's right. So just
Well,
kind of walk us through that.
I would just say, my number one thing was, of course, praying and God, and I couldn't have made it without God and my church. And sorry. Anyway, I have a lot of people praying for Casey for years, and
if it wasn't for that, it would have been tremendously harder than it was. But sorry. Anyway, sometimes I go backwards a little bit. But I would just say, don't give up. Whatever you do, don't give up, and don't think they're never going to get out. I'm never going to, as I was telling Carrie, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Casey has an unfortunate health issue, and they weren't taking care of him in there. And I called, and if I didn't get that person, I called the next person. If I didn't get that person, I called the next person. And I called all the way up to the warden, and I'm just like, okay, look, my son has a health issue. If it doesn't get taken care of, this place is coming down. I don't care, whatever. And, I know that sounds horrible, but they don't. A lot of people, and I will say there are some wonderful people. I met some absolutely fabulous people going through the different prisons that he went in. And, hats off to Governor Stitt for releasing so many people. I mean, good lands, good for him. But, it's taken so much time. And, there's just so many other things. There's Teen Challenge, and I had been bugging them when Casey was incarcerated in Lawton to get a group there, Teen Challenge in the prison there. And finally they got it, and then they moved Casey. So it was crazy, but that is a way to rehabilitate people, and they put it inside the pod in the prison. So there are ways to do things and to fix it, and the system needs to be revamped. But as far as just living it, you can't give up, and you need to call your state representatives and go to the Capitol and talk to people and say, look, these things aren't right. I would email the Department of Corrections. I would email the governor. I didn't care who I had to email or reach or whatever, and I would research and find the best attorneys, and it's not always I would always tell somebody, don't always go with somebody because they're the most expensive, because that doesn't mean they're the best. Some people have a real heart for it, and they do care. And like I said, my last attorney that we ended up with was phenomenal. She couldn't have been better. And, it wasn't one of those charge you for every 5 seconds and not call you back and this and that. And, so I would encourage people to just do your research and ask other people and get with groups with people that have kids that are incarcerated. Because I think it's real important to connect with other people, because people that haven't sat in your shoes don't have any idea what it feels like to go through Christmas and go through their birthdays and go through, Thanksgiving and go through all these holidays that you go through, and they're not there with you. And, they get a phone call or you talk to them or whatever, but it's not the same. And, and nobody can really feel that unless they've sat in your shoes. So, I got with some people in the same situation as me, and I think that helps those kind of groups, But continue to pray, to write letters, bug those people. If something's not getting done, and if it's not right and they're not treating them right, you just have to go and hammer them and go there. And, I don't know how many times I would go to the places and say, this isn't right. I want to talk to somebody. I want to, whatever. And, right before Casey got his commutation, he got a write-up that was just bogus. And and I don't still to this day really realize, but I went through, some people higher up to find out, hey, I need you to investigate what's going on, because my son's getting ready to come home and they've given him a write-up. He wouldn't do something. He's not that stupid. But, those are the things that people let slide because they don't know what to do. And you got to just keep going and keep going.
And if you don't have someone like you, it can really hurt the person on the inside because they don't have a voice. I call it. I always say I have to speak up for the voiceless because they are
right.
voiceless, and if they don't have someone or a support system on the outside, then it just stays the way
'cause
that it
was,
is.
That was definitely the determining factor of me getting out right there. Because if I would have got that write up, I would have never got a commutation. And it was something as simple as one of the officers, one of the correctional officers, had asked me to flush some pills, and I flushed them. And then like 2 weeks later, I get a piece of paper when the mail comes around saying that I had a write up for possession of pills. The same pills that I was asked to flush. So we're like, whoa. So I go to the lieutenant. I'm like, hey, look, I got a write up saying that I have possession of pills, saying that on this date I flushed these pills. You gave me the piece of paper. You told me what to do. I flushed the pills. Like, I don't understand how is it even possible. You know what I mean? So he was even like in shock. So he, went up through the chain of command, was like, hey, look, this is my orderly. I gave him something and told him to flush it. Like, I don't understand what's going on. And the guy who gave me the write-up, the next day canceled my transfer packet, and then the next day retired.
Oh, wow.
So it was like, and then there was no way to even get a hold of this guy to, for the lieutenant to explain to him what was going on, because this happened during his days off. And really, the guy literally gave me a write-up, canceled my packet, and retired. And went home, went on with his life about his business, and was ready to derail my life for the next 3 years, because I was ineligible for a commutation for 2 years after that, and then I would only had a year left to discharge. So that was the determining factor for me doing 3 more years in prison over one write-up. That was a 3-year sentence for one piece of paper because somebody didn't care.
And for those of you guys that are just tuning in or maybe didn't get to see the first, I know we didn't really say it, we kind of just went right into it. Tell us again what your charges were and what all was going on with you.
I had several charges. I had been selling marijuana illegally for quite some time, and I had accrued a charge of possession of marijuana with intent to distribute. I had some money for selling marijuana, so I had also possession of proceeds. I was put on probation for 15 years. So during that time, I continued to sell marijuana. I got caught later on and got another charge for possession of marijuana again. So I ended up going to prison for possession of marijuana. They gave me 30 years.
And that was your plea bargain?
That was my plea. I pled out to 30 years, Department of Corrections.
That's what they tried to ask my husband to plead out for 30, and he took it to trial.
So I signed for 30 years. 30 years time to do in the Department of Corrections. In Oklahoma, you do 33%, which would have been about a little over 10 years. So I got right around the 8 to 9 year marker. Yeah, and that's when
No, you got 8.
the laws started changing, and in December, when it was verified that Kevin Stitt would be going into office, he'd been on, like everybody else does, promising he was going to do this, do that, prison reform, all this and that. He's actually one of the few people that stepped in office and did exactly what he said. He stepped in office, and I mean, his first few weeks in office, I got a return on my commutation, and I got right out. No probation, no parole, nothing. They gave me time served. Said that the reason being is because my sentence was, it was outrageous, it was unjust, and they felt like the time that I had served for marijuana was more than enough. So they made good on that. They released me. They didn't ask anything of me after that, and I got out and have been trying to come back into the cannabis community, this time on the right side of the fence, and doing everything legit, which is still weird that I did all of that time for the same thing that now I'm, in the process.
You could pay money and do the same thing.
Yeah, I'm in the process right now, with some of my friends, my mom, my girlfriend, etc., getting my licensing here to do all the same stuff legitimately that, was just scrutinized and frowned upon by everybody here.
You passed the resident requirement.
Yeah.
They can't dispute that. You have definitely been a resident.
For
so.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, and what we had talked about also for those that may not know it is the commercial requirement is 2 years. You have to, you can't have any charges that are less than 2 years to qualify. In your case, you qualify.
My case has been close to 10. So since I've been home, one of my best friends since I was young, Justin Parks, he's over the course of me being incarcerated, he opened his own dispensary. He's got 46 Relief down there on 7th and Broadway. He's opened several locations.
Let's go to here.
Yeah,
Let's
we're gonna
check
pull
this
that
out
up
here.
and check it out and
Yeah,
see.
he's opened up one and more that he's attached to his Prodigy Vape store. They've got one coming soon in Norman. They've got a grow that's already in the process. He teamed up with some really good guys out of California that pretty popular band, the Hollywood Undead.
The
they've
Hollywood
actually-
Undead, huh?
Yeah, they've actually been down here helping him with the grow. It's just really good, man. Everybody's trying to come together. They've brought me in and offered me several different positions because they're wanting to help people out of prison, felons who don't really have a lot of options as far as employment to get back on their feet. You know, and of course, me growing up with him has helped, and he's just kind of helping me get in position. But these guys have asked me to come in and help them, you know, look for different ways we can give these people coming out jobs. We can help get more and more people out, you know, under marijuana clauses that shouldn't be in there, such as your husband, Free Wally, by the way. So that's something that we're all working towards. You know, Justin, some of his partners, they're all real big right now and wanting us to pursue through the community of, you know, giving jobs out, looking for people who don't have really any direction or sense due to felonies in the past, and see if we can get them on the employment schedule since he's opening multiple stores and stuff. And, you know, these guys bringing in such a big insight from California
Run that.
on the know-how and the way things have been going has helped us a lot, too, on things that we weren't too sure about.
Here's a video on the 46 Relief OK. They've go to
Kicking.
Instagram.
Right. Yeah, there we go. Big shout-outs to Dove Grenade. That's their brand. That's them going through right there, working on some of their products. That's going to be the grow that is in the process of being put together here in Oklahoma. So it'll have the same basis, same people growing, same
Dove
products.
Grenade. That's an interesting name. That's
Yeah.
like yin and yang, huh?
Yeah,
That's
it's pretty
kind of
cool.
the.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. They're really cool, man. Really down to earth. They're really for the people. You know, they're trying to come out. They don't need the money. They're very successful where they're at. So they're coming out here to really give back to the community. You know what I mean? They're really going out of their way to try to do some positive stuff.
Cool.
710.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Especially for an oiler like me.
Right.
That's the. And so, which one is Justin? Which one were you
Justin's
saying?
going to be the cute blonde-headed girl on the left.
Nice. What up, Justin?
Yeah, he's the cute blonde-headed girl on
Nice.
the left.
We got to come over there and see this place.
Yeah, we said that
'cause
last time. We do got to come over. We need to come over and check
yeah,
out
you
the
guys
place
need to come
for
check
sure.
it out. It's very nice in there. The staff is very polite. Everybody's pretty knowledgeable, and that's another thing they're working with. Like they're working with other dispensaries. They're working with doctors. They're working with just obtaining the most knowledge possible to be able to pass along to other people in the community. Because really, right now, there's not like one specific formula. Like everybody has their own way of doing this thing. So I think the more conversations people have and the more they work together, the more people are figuring out better and better ways to grow, to dispense, to market, to just all the, you know, and it's just brought so many different aspects of life and different cultures of people together into one big pot. So it's been pretty cool. People that, you know, would never have crossed each other's paths are now sitting down at the same table.
Yep.
Which is kind of really interesting right there in itself. That's the between the minority opportunity in the business, the cannabis business, which would include women in the business.
For sure.
That is really happening more so than you see anywhere else out there in the
For sure,
world
you know,
there.
as
Right.
far as I'm kind of old school in terms of, you know, the man is the man and the woman is the woman, but I mean, I guess that's way outdated. You know, I'm one of the first ones to say I've even had to kind of come to the realization that even the women in this business, I mean, they've really stepped up and taken a dominant role. And I mean, there's some of the best people in this business right now are women. You know, we have a lady who's a good friend of mine, she's actually going to help us with, some of our growing stuff. Phenomenal, better than most of the men I've met. So, I mean, the women really they're stepping up and leading the way for a lot of aspects of the business. They really are.
They don't really need us, the female cannabis plant doesn't need a male cannabis plant. It can go ahead
I
and
think the
make
women
things
have kinda
happen like
started-
that.
They've
I just
kinda
wanted
started
to.
following suit. They're letting a lot of us go. So I think.
Well, we have to
We
kill
have
the
to be
boys
careful.
normally. I mean, I don't want to kill the boys, but I'm just saying it does happen.
And our folks
And
next
to grow.
in our next episode, we've got the Smitty B's Exotics, and he's got the praying mantis there in his logo,
Yeah, he
which
does.
is just absolutely phenomenal. Which is kind of the you only get one shot if you're a guy at praying mantis.
Yeah.
And then it's over. Yeah, no, I'm grateful for all the opportunity for folks at like 46 Relief that.
And I'm glad that, even though he's your friend, I'm glad that they're giving you an opportunity, and I'm glad that they're giving other people an opportunity, for the community, because it is tough. And so, glad to see that you're on the right path and you're a success story, one of the people that are really doing good. And your mom's got a big smile on her face, and she's happy. All her hard work and hair pulling out, because
Well,
I know
I
I
wasn't-
should be bald myself.
I wasn't
but
quite sure if this was quite what I wanted him to do, but
You might as well let him
I'm
make it,
just
Mama.
Like, God, if it's legal, it's okay.
That is
That's
the
right.
power of
You
prayer
know,
right there. I can tell
just-
you with
I tell you,
it's
there's
amazing.
a lot of power in prayer, and when other people are praying, I mean, Casey was not. I mean, I'm just saying he wasn't going to get out, and it was like I had so many people praying because I knew that he wasn't guilty, and it was like I went through so many people, and as I said before, I had a really good friend, Senator Bass, and he was just phenomenal in helping to, get to the top and ask these people, hey, who
Get
do
down to
and
it.
there are people that you can contact at DOC that do investigations, because I know a lot of people, not just Casey, but a lot of people get pegged with a lot of things that they didn't do just because they, they're the scapegoat for one reason or another. And this guy, his name was Randy as well. He was the investigator on the deal, and I mean, there are good people, but you can't give up, and you have to be the voice, like you said, because they have no voice inside. They have no voice. So, as a parent or a loved one or a spouse, you have to be their voice, or if they don't have one, they don't get one, and it's unfortunate. And like we said to begin with, I think the main thing here is just the people to speak up and say that, what's being done for, criminals, or, whatever you want to say for people with drug charges. The sentences are just outlandish. And people are still, as we were speaking earlier, getting busted for marijuana and going back, into prison. So the system itself needs a total revamp.
Overhaul, yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, that was the not only the power of prayer for that, but the power of prayer for us weeders that it would finally go legal, and that because I got a feeling that even though after 10 or 12 years being there, that even when you get out, it's like, well, I know where I can go. I still love weed, man. I still got the weed fever. And then all of a sudden, it's like, well, you come out and you got a chance to make it right, and that's when weeders say,
sure.
"Amen." That's the.
Well, I'm not a weeder.
I'm saying that I'm telling you, that's
I got
that's
you.
the weed prayer came through,
You're
and
right.
there's been a lot of brothers and sisters that are still there. If you go to organizations like POW420.com,
Oh, yeah,
go follow Seattle Hemp Fest. There was just a whole thing about somebody famous that's making the push to get out of to release the cannabis people. I mean,
Right.
it's recreational, 11 states. It's
so why would you keep these people
80%
for something
because
that's
it's
legal?
it's a money maker at this point. But if you could get all those people to grow hemp and create fibers and create hemp plastics, and people like Justin Parks and the Hollywood Undead, giving Casey the opportunity to get involved in what he loves to do. That's imagine how many people are, up in the California areas, the amount of grow knowledge in there. Do you ever meet anybody in the house that was like, hey, I know what's up with growing, like check out my notes and kind of share that kind of stuff?
There's so many people. Everybody, it's like anything else. When you're in prison, everybody has, everybody was a millionaire. Everybody was rich and famous. Everybody has all these stories, so you never really know who's telling the truth and who isn't. But yeah, I met a lot of people who were from out of state, who had grown. And at that particular time, this wasn't really evolving here yet. Right. So when they're talking about all this stuff that's second nature to them, I would listen and kind of just soak it up. And now looking back on that, I'm like, wow, those guys, I should have listened, because those guys really did know what they were talking about. But I'm thinking in my mind, like, man, we'll be so far down the line to get legalized. Like, that'll be, ancient history by the time it finally comes up. There'll be 50 new ways to do it. But really, a lot of people are using the same methods as, 20, 30 years ago. So, I mean, I don't think much has changed as far as certain techniques. I think just technology, lighting, just new equipment that makes things easier and faster and more efficient. I think that's what's changing the way grows are happening. Yeah. But I think as far as just the logistics of the basis, I think some of the old ways are still in play for sure. And these guys in California that have such vast knowledge because they've been doing it for so long, they've been really helpful in coming out here and showing a lot of people how to make a business, how to be successful, how to not make the same mistakes that they made so many years ago out there. And they're saving people a lot of money and heartache of having to lose their first crop and, be really disappointed. And it's keeping people from wanting to give up too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, you have to build on everybody else's knowledge. You'd be crazy not to. Everybody had to go invent the light bulb again so you could see around in the room.
For sure.
We would never go anywhere as humans. And that's one of the great things that enables us here. Right here in this, what's happening right now in this space here is we're able to communicate with so many people, and this will stay online and people watch it over time and pick up something and be able to relate to this or that, and why does Larry keep talking with his hands and all kinds of things like that, and just and so that's great, man. I'm so glad that you came back to visit us and brought mom. That's the
best part.
Absolutely, because like her, like Miss Chronic, she's a mom too. My mom's a mom,
Everybody's got a mom.
That's it. And so that's what they always say is there's only one thing you really know in life, and that's who's your mother.
That's right.
And so 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 definitely go check out 46 Relief. Go say thanks to Justin, the Hollywood Undead. Listen to them. I don't want to play their music because it might zoink us.
Yeah, I may get you.
And get all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
and
I may get you. But yeah, you guys
block both of our viewers.
Go check out. There's one on 7th and Broadway. There's one on 19th Street and more. There's one coming soon to Norman. There's a grow location right around the 89th and Western area. So, I mean, they're out there, man. Contact them, Instagram, Facebook, whatever. Any questions you have, anything that they can do to possibly help, man, they're there. They will help. They will answer whatever questions they can. They constantly are running specials, giving discounts, doing promo deals. Go by there and check it out, man. You guys will really like it. If you haven't found a home for, your needs or your questioning or, just a good dispensary to be able to lean on, man, that's great. Go by there and check it out.
Great.
And the way they've done up places, you can go in there and look around for a couple minutes and just kind of kick tires and get to know everybody. And that's what I think, that's you see on the social media. The great thing about what's going on here in Oklahoma is that there's so many different choices that you have that go in there, get used to somebody, go
for sure.
Talk to them for a little bit.
Don't ever feel obligated to buy. Like go in, really look and see what's in there. Go home, think about it. Ask them other people. Go in another dispensary. See, compare, look around. I mean,
buy a gram.
Buy a little bit. Buy a gram. Try it. Like I said, nobody knows what's exactly working right now. There is no uniform for what's going on. Check everything out. and, you know, make some decisions. And, you know, you can kind of formulate as you go, and it'll come together for you. But don't be scared to look. Don't be scared to ask, and don't be scared to try different things. You got to have an open mind. It's just what it is right now.
There you go. There's the eyes of an open mind right
Oh my
there.
God.
That's the
Get that guy off of there.
that
Y'all
really
aren't
got
gonna
an
see
open
him.
mind
That's
there.
The other
That's
guy
the-
is a lot better looking than that one. I'm not really too sure who that guy was.
He's a doll. He's a good guy.
he
Yeah, there we
is a
go.
good guy.
Yeah,
That's
he's
the.
great.
Well,
I was
back-
saying I think I seen him on the World Strongman competition. This guy right here.
Yeah, he's the one that
lifting
lost.
the
Yeah.
stones and all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
he's the guy. He was on there. He was the one that lost.
And that's
He's
the guy
actually
from-
got first place in the women's category.
Damn it! He took my spot.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, there you go. There you go. Darla, Casey, thank you so much.
thank
you
We
so much
really
for coming
appreciate
in.
you. 46 Relief, way to go.
Yep.
Keep on building community.
For sure.
Pray, everybody
Help
out
people
there,
up.
pray for free Wally.
That's
For
right.
sure.
That's
Free
the
Wally.
prayer
For
for,
sure, free
for a
Wally.
while till we get Wally home.
I appreciate you. He
For sure.
appreciates you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
We're absolute
Absolutely.
certain
Thank you
you're
for
welcome.
having us.
Well, don't go anywhere. We do have our guests coming on right behind us, so we'll take a short intermission and then we'll be right back.
There you go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hit that button, Kristen. You got it.
There we go.
Foxcast.